60 Minutes with Angela starts right now.
Until we begin to produce, anything that the government does is a waste of time.
He's a former governorship candidate who contested the governorship election in Ebonyi State, his home state, in 2011 and 2015. And he's a faculty member at the Pan-Atlantic University in Lagos State, Nigeria. Dr. Austin Nweze joins me on the program today. So I thought we could start, with your overview of the Nigerian economy as it is today. This is October 2022. In a couple of months, in February, we'll be electing a new president. I'm interested in your opinion on what type of economy the next president will be inheriting and what challenges you think he will be facing.
Well, let's start from the state of Nigerian economy. It's in a bad shape. And we are borrowing too much without investing the money in the productive activities. And
that's key, productive activity,
yes,
you called it.
Yes. Okay. And then we are borrowing just to pay salaries and maintain the corruption that exists in the system.
Yes.
Yeah. We have a high debt profile. Inflation rate is high, about still double digit, about 18% or thereabout. And you find that the GDP is not really growing.
Yeah.
It's still less than 3%. And also unemployment is high. Adult unemployment is over 25%. Youth unemployment is over 55%.
55?
Yes. And there is exodus of young people leaving because they can't take it anymore.
Yes. So that's a workforce we're losing.
Workforce, yes.
You talked about the GDP and the inflation rate. Ideally, you said one was 3%, one was 25%. Ideally,
55% unemployment rate, yes, for young people.
Young people 55?
Yes, adult 25. Yes.
Ideally, what should those figures be?
Well, it depends on the state, what the country wants to do. It's a policy matter.
Right.
You may say, okay, full employment. It has its own consequences. Inflation will be high. For instance, in Singapore, when I visited Singapore,
yes,
a couple of years ago, they had a policy of full employment. Anybody that wanted a job
got a
job.
Right.
And even some companies that could not afford to pay minimum wage, government augments for them.
So, but government puts people in that company and pays.
Yes, if it is $1,000 minimum wage, and the company is too small to pay, can only afford to pay $500
yes,
a month minimum wage, for example.
Yes.
The government will make up the other 500. But anybody that wanted to work
got a job. Right.
So, but again, things are expensive there.
So that's the other side of it.
Yes.
Yes.
But what the government has also done is that they engaged on forced savings, because they expect that when you graduate at 21, you get a job and you start saving immediately. When you're 25, you have saved enough to get your own house.
Right.
If you're a bachelor, you start with a self-contained apartment.
A studio.
A studio, yeah.
Yes.
A studio apartment. Then by the time you're married with 1 or 2 kids, you get to 2-bedroom. Gradually,
You upgrade.
You upgrade, yes.
Yes.
So that's the way they planned, they planned it.
It's a bit restrictive, but it works.
It works. So you find that policemen, army, and all that, they live in their own homes, 80%. With the other common people, let me put it that way.
Yes.
And again, about 93% of them live on high rises because of space.
Yes.
So
the only way is up.
Only way up, yes. So you find that the society is planned. And then these are people that refine our oil. They take it there, they refine, they come back, they sell to us.
So they were refining for everyone without even having the product.
In 1970, in the early 70s,
yes,
they approached a Japanese Mitsubishi or something like that to build a refinery on BOT.
Build, operate, and transfer.
They couldn't afford. So they built it. Now what they did, because of the location, how strategic the country is situated,
yes,
they had dredged the Atlantic,
yes,
to accommodate bigger ships, mother ships. So the mother ships will bring goods there. Smaller ships will take it to different parts of Asia. So it became a hub. And that was their economy.
And they were surviving on that.
They were surviving, come and see the infrastructure. And they became a number 4 financial center. When recently they discovered oil, the reserve for oil is about 9-story building down.
Into the earth.
Into the earth, yes. But they're not behaving as a country that just discovered oil. The discipline is still there.
I like the way you say that. They're not behaving as a country. How do countries who just discovered oil behave?
the way we do it here. Yeah, the way we do it here.
Flex.
Yeah, pretending to be big men and all that. Meanwhile, we are a poor country, rich in resources, but poor in purchasing power.
Yes.
Okay. So the purchasing power is less than $2,000, and over 100 million living below poverty.
Yes.
And middle class is gone, and middle class in every economy is the one that holds the economy.
The mainstay.
Is the mainstay. They determine the direction of the politics or the country is headed. They determine what is to be consumed. Okay, they determine so many things. And if you in America, for instance, every politician comes in and says we're going to build a middle class. Without the middle class, it's like a football. If you don't have a midfield, you collapse.
Yes.
So Nigeria does not have middle class, which is the midfield in football.
As we speak today,
yes.
You paint a very bleak picture. But those who love the country will say, I'm not saying you don't love Nigeria, but those who want to be more positive will say, we also are victims of a global meltdown in many ways. There was COVID. I'm reading about...
I don't want to make excuses.
Yes.
We lack strong leadership. We lack institutional leadership. Okay? Because institutions help economy to grow.
Yes.
They drive the economy, institutions.
And we don't have strong institutions.
We don't. All right? So, and policy somersault, inconsistency. All right? For example, when Obasanjo was president,
Yes.
there was a policy on export grant given to Cowbell, the Promasidor, to enable them export.
Some of their products.
Yes. When Yar'Adua came, he cancelled it.
And did he give a reason for
They
that?
cancelled it. He said he was not interested before he died.
So how will we ensure continuity in governance?
Now, there is, I like the sing-song, the what is going on
Politically.
politically.
Yes.
It's about people are tired and they want a new Nigeria. They keep saying that we have a potential. They want that potentiality to be activated right now.
Yes.
So the next government that will come in has a huge challenge.
Which is why we all have to be discerning.
Yes, we need to be discerning. The only person that seemed to understand the magnitude of the challenges ahead is the Labour Party man. And because he keeps saying that we need to move away from consumption to production.
And some people would argue and say, well, he didn't do much of that when he was governor in Anambra State.
Yeah, that was then, but he has grown up. He has attended INSEAD, he has attended
Courses, yes.
Yeah, all manner of, and his eyes opened.
Yes.
Okay, so until we begin to produce, anything that the government does is a waste of time.
Until we begin to produce.
Exactly, and consume what they produce, 80% minimum. Because right now, the reverse is the case. We produce 10% and consume import of 90%. So until we begin and also become original equipment manufacturers.
Yes.
These cameras here, the people that built it don't have two heads. They're human beings.
Yes.
And you don't even need to start from the scratch. All you need to do is some young boys that are gifted, give them the camera, they dismantle.
And see what goes into it.
Yes. And then some of the raw materials used in making them, we have them here.
Lithium and everything.
Yes, we have them here. Nigeria is one of the richest countries in the world. 25% of all the factor endowments, natural resources that God put in the world, 25% is in Nigeria.
25%
Yes.
of all the natural resources.
Yes, divide into four. One part is in Nigeria. We are not lacking in any raw material.
The late Chris Akiri, may he so rest in peace, always said to me that every one of the 36 states in Nigeria has resources that can make it stand on its own.
Of course. Now, I did a paper some years ago, even as a chapter in the book. I put it in a chapter, one of the chapters in the book, about factor endowment and communal competitiveness. That every community, every village, the way God designed this thing, every village has enough to feed itself. Extra, you say, to the next village.
For income.
For income. So that you can exchange what you don't produce. So that you can be interdependent.
This is very interesting what you speak of, because when I interviewed the executive secretary of NALDA, that's the National Agricultural Program of the Buhari administration, he alluded to this, because I said to him, why is it that some crops will grow in some parts of Nigeria, and then you try to grow, for instance, the yellow peppers. You know, you can only get them in the southeast. They won't grow anywhere else. And he said, well, that's what you use to trade.
Yes. You must have something to trade. You know, the trade must happen.
Yes.
And that's how human interaction, also take place.
Yes.
Yeah. So you find that until, the strategy, there's no national strategy as per what the country wants to compete. But if you look at the Nigeria's economy, some years ago it was about 79%
Yes.
of West African economy. West African economy put together. Nigeria's economy is about 79% of that. Let's take West Africa, for instance. The roads are not motorable for them to come. And our neighbors, Benin Republic and all that, they wait until we ban some things for them to import. And then,
They wait for our budget to
yes,
be read.
Yes. So they will know what is banned and what is that. And
then they invest in that.
Yeah, they just ship. The Lebanese there and Indians there will ship and then smuggle into Nigeria. So the economy is in a bad shape. It's a huge challenge for the next government, unless the person understands. And I like what the Labour Party man is saying.
Yes.
From consumption to production.
Yes.
Until we begin to produce. And I tell Central Bank each time we quarrel, they keep doing inflation targeting. They're fighting inflation. Naira, using Naira and then Naira keeps falling.
Yes.
And I said to them, there are three, I call them unholy trinity, that affect the entire economy. But one has a major influence on the economy.
Right.
That's the interest rate. You have the interest rate.
Right.
You have the foreign exchange. You have inflation. These three, when they happen to a country and you don't know how to manage them,
it's a problem.
It's a problem. Now, take the interest rate, for example. There's no way you go to bank and borrow anything less than 30%.
How can you run any legitimate business?
That is it, especially small businesses. So, and we cannot even compete outside. Our product export cannot even compete outside. So, what you do is, if you manipulate the interest rate very well, you can expand the economy. Forget about inflation.
Right.
What the CBN is not even their job. Is to because they dabble so much in the fiscal policy side.
They should be doing more of advocacy, advising.
Like you coming up with financial instruments to meet the objective of the government, of the executive, the fiscal policy end. The government may want, one single digit inflation. Central Bank will say, what policies can we put in place to bring inflation down? And I say production. Everything you do, you must be productive.
Yes.
You must produce what you eat. You must be able to, look at oil and gas.
Yes.
Oil and gas is being run by foreigners. And there are places, there's some part of the economy that no foreigner should dabble into for security reasons.
For security purposes.
But you find that they control oil and gas.
And because we don't have capacity.
Yeah, talking about capacity.
Yes.
Malaysia, the global CEO of Shell then in the early 2000s, spoke at an event, oil and gas event in Geneva, Switzerland.
Yes.
And a player in the oil and gas here attended, Alfred Okoego,
yes,
the CEO of Akko Petrochemical. So he told me that he attended, and they listened to Shell CEO, global CEO,
yes,
tell a story of how they were able to manage and succeed in Malaysia. That the Malaysian government gave them 10 years to build capacity or leave. Well, the man said, I'm happy to announce that we were able to achieve that in less than 10 years.
But we've never tried that.
No. So Alfred went to him and said, Mr. Shell, how are you? I'm from Nigeria, from Niger Delta. Where are you? He said, you have this thing. Why haven't you done this in Nigeria? Build capacity.
Are we not the ones supposed to be demanding it?
He said, go ask your government.
Join us again after the break. So So welcome back. Now, as of Tuesday, October 11th, 2022, the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, downgraded our growth projection to 3.2% in 2022. They say that is 0.2 percentage points lower than the 3.4 that they had projected. Now, this, according to the World Economic Outlook for 2022, October. Now, in fact, the economic growth projection for the whole of Africa, sub-Saharan Africa, was downgraded from 3.8 to 3.6 as well for October 2022, then citing tighter financial monetary conditions. But in the Middle East and Central Asia, that projection is set to increase to 5%. They say due partly to the unexpectedly mild impact of the war in Ukraine on those areas. And my question to you is, why not us? Why are we not benefiting from that war in Ukraine?
You see, economic planning is a huge challenge. Ghana is in trouble. The inflation is high.
Due to lack of planning as well?
Yes. When some other African countries, South Africa also is not doing too well, and because of lack of production. But in the Middle East, the war in Ukraine, though it affected Egypt because of wheat and all that, all imports from there. But they looked inward. What Africa should have done is like, look, major exporters of this product, and we have them here. Why don't we increase production of these things or focus on it?
Yes.
So that we can have an export. Now, Europe, they're looking up to Nigeria. They're looking up to Africa as an alternative.
Yes.
To
provide these things.
Yes. Even some European countries have farms.
They're coming now and setting up their own physical farms.
Yes, in Mozambique. They're farming, exporting. People there are hungry, but you farm, you export every grain of rice. None is consumed within. They farm, you provide the land, they farm it and feed their own citizens.
People.
Yeah. So it's a lack of leadership. And Nigeria has been holding Africa down. Naturally, Nigeria is Africa. Africa is Nigeria. Whatever happens in Nigeria, like the Americans, Europeans, they say, look, there shouldn't be another war in Nigeria. Because if it happens now, it may not last long, but more people will die than they died during the Nigerian Civil War.
And that's why the world is focused on this election.
Yes. And they cannot handle the immigration. Research.
Already, we've seen the United Kingdom in the last 48 hours, tinkering with the requirements, for people trying to go there for education and all that.
Yes.
They've seen the possibilities if
right.
an exodus happens.
Yes. In the year 2000, the world entered knowledge economy, which is an economy fueled by innovation.
Yes.
And innovation by research. So you find that there is this hunger for knowledge. And nobody can stop it. So no matter what policy Nigerian government makes to stop people from going to school, they must find ways. Bad economy, but parents are struggling to pay school fees. And now you shut down universities, because of disagreement between the union and then the government.
Perennial disagreements.
Yes. So it's the growth.
Yes.
It's because there's a level of literacy level that you require to grow an economy.
There's a level of literacy required to grow an economy.
That's
In
right.
other words, you can't afford to have a president who's not educated.
No, now you can't. You see, if you ask me, NESG, Nigerian Economic Summit Group, they came up with about 5 or 6 critical sectors that government must pay attention to. Number 1 is education. Okay? Now, because of this, Because without education, you can't manage. You can't manage anything.
Has Nigeria ever dedicated the 26% that the UN says we should put towards education?
The highest that was ever done was in 2013, when the former president, Jonathan,
Yes.
had about 10%.
And we were jubilating.
In the history. But how much was allocated to them?
Okay, on paper it was 10%.
Yeah, it was 10%. But in real terms, no money to do anything. That's what happens with budgets. Now you make a budget of 20 trillion. And then you have debt repayment of about, for next year, of about 6 trillion. And then you have subsidy payment of about 5 trillion.
And talking about subsidies, you know, I was looking at this matter of oil theft. It isn't a new phenomenon.
No, it's not.
It's not.
No.
So does it make any difference to someone like yourself, you know, a managerial economist? Does it matter whether it's escravos or focados? I was trying to see the significance of that distinction that the Nnpc was making, that the pipeline that was discovered, that had been there for 9 years, wasn't in one place, but it is in one place. What does that bring to the story?
Yeah, because they are all accomplices. You know? Because one is that there's no way, it's not a poor man hungry that will go and buy the pipe and connect.
What does a poor man know about pipelines anyway?
So in connivance with the expatriates, you know, they do that and set that pipe and pipe the fuel into their ship, and they ship it to their own country.
And the ship is on the high sea.
Yes, high sea.
But because the water, they're probably not dredged enough, the ship can't come close.
Yes.
So they build this pipeline to go and meet the ship.
The Navy is aware of it. Navy. They patrol our waters. Okay? So you cannot tell me that government, you know, but because of corruption.
Yes.
You know, they look the other way. They look the other way. But my take in all of this is, I keep saying, look, you have illegal refineries, so-called.
Yes.
Now, the legal products, fuel, kerosene, they don't get to those riverine areas. They depend on this illegal.
Yes, but I was listening to that, your idea, that the federal government should find a way to, you know, but the lawyer in me came out. The product that is refined illegally by these boys in the creeks, is it of merchantable quality? Is it fit for the purpose? Have they followed the process? I'm thinking of that because when you see a refinery and then you see where these boys are boiling crude oil in vats, you understand? I can't.
No, you guys, it happened during the Civil War. Okay, it happened. These are part of the things that they
were using to defend themselves.
Yeah, to refine their crude. They were refining. Government should test the quality. If it's not enough, the required equipment should give them grants to buy the equipment or to whatever it is, and then sell crude to them. Until you do that, oil theft will not stop. It will not stop. So what you need to do is to legalize the so-called illegal refineries.
Yes.
Sell crude to them. Let them produce.
But aren't we
by the time competition will drive them out of business.
Yeah, but aren't we falling into this trap where, you know, now the only way to get anything from government is to hold government to ransom? So you amend, you blow up things, and then they give you amnesty. You are Boko Haram, you kill people, and they give you amnesty. You know, you are illegal refiners. And
sometimes government is hard of hearing. Because they are government, they use force. But everything is not force. There are things you need to negotiate. If it were in Europe or Asia and all that,
Yes.
and you have this kind of thing, they will legalize it.
Even train them
yes,
to do it better.
Train them to do it better. Train them. Okay? So that is what will stop these things to a larger extent.
Yes.
You know, because if they keep going the way they're going by force, they will always have this thing. And then my question is, most of the international companies or ships that steal this oil are from Europe. The government of Europe or Netherlands, for instance,
Yes.
has not asked them, where do you get this? What
Oil
are the
from?
papers? Unless they
Yes.
forge the papers and all that,
Yes.
to say that they bought and stuff like that.
Yes.
So, but they are aware that they're stealing this, and they're encouraging them.
Back in the day, there was a way that there was a suggestion to I don't know how they were going to use technology to be able to determine where certain crude was coming from. In the days of MEND, when they were blowing pipelines and stuff, I remember having this discussion with the then petroleum minister, Angela Ajetunmobi, and he said they were exploring it, how to give identity to the oil. So when oil arrives at a refinery, say in Singapore, we can detect where exactly this oil is coming from. Because you make a good point. If there are no buyers of this oil, there will be no thieves
at all
of the oil.
Now, what Saudi Arabia has done is that they have used technology well in that sector, in the oil and gas. They have put sensors in all the pipes. They know, watching the TV, the screen,
Yes.
the computer screen, all that. They know what is. If there's any problem in any area, they're able to. They don't have to wait until some community leader calls them and say, your oil is leaking here and all
Yes.
that. They don't. They know the amount of reserve. Okay, but Nnpc has not invested.
Is that deliberate, you think?
Yes, it's deliberate because so that the fraud will continue, the corruption will continue. So you find that, even the helicopter they use
Yes.
to check on the meter and all that is owned by one of the IOCs. Nnpc
We
does
don't
not-
have our own.
As a few years ago, unless they bought it yesterday or two recently. If they go to check, they have to depend on the IOCs, oil companies.
Please give us a helicopter.
Yes.
They say there's something going on somewhere.
They don't even have
Okay,
the equipment to measure, to know the quantity. They have to depend on them.
And that is why we don't know how much we produce,
Yes.
how much leaves the country, how
Yes.
much we consume.
Yes.
Now that we've privatized Nnpc, will that make a difference?
Well,
because when you're running a business as a private thing, there's more diligence.
Well, the private, who are those still running it? Did they sack anyone? A private company, they're still running it, the same people.
Yes.
If they say it's a private company, and I'm made the head of this thing, Nnpc or the Minister of Petroleum,
Yes.
I will sack everyone. If you have spent, from the MD down to level 7 or 5. Because at that level, that's where corruption happens.
And they've all been tainted.
Yes.
This corruption we keep talking about, it's a perennial conversation. However, how will it end? The leaders we're electing are from among us.
Yeah.
And the followers were not exactly clean.
Because one is this. When you talk about corruption, it's not Nigeria's problem.
What is?
Education. John Adams talks about 2 types of education.
Yes.
One type of education is what puts food on your table. You're a lawyer, you're practicing, you have your chamber, you're working somewhere, and then you get paid, it puts food on the table. The second type of education is the one that teaches you how to live. values. That's where the crisis is. And you know that this is a generation of, first generation or so of millionaires and all that. Okay, for any nation evolving,
Yes.
this kind of thing will happen until they move to a second phase, a new phase.
Yes.
We have, we are tired of even the corrupt practices. And
We
we're
don't
saying,
know what to do.
yeah, and we're saying, let a new Nigeria emerge so that all these things will stop. This is a new phase, a second generation, a third generation coming up. They're now thinking of their own children, okay, to build a better future for them. Because if Nigeria is, there's no point sending your children overseas. The weather is terrible. I mean, I lived there for a while, but weather is not, it's not funny. And there's no place like home.
No.
You know, so because of cultural differences. So you find that if this, and one of the ministers, one of the pastors, said in one of his preachings, he said that in the next 15 years, Nigeria will be a rainbow nation. People, if you want to worship your God, you have to come to Nigeria. If you want to do certain things and leave, and if you have to come to Nigeria. But we need to get the leadership right.
To let people...
Yes. So that rainbow. You find people to avoid taxes. They are living in America. They live in another place. They have Cayman Island where they store all the things, you know. So you see that reverse migration happening. You know, and you know that the diaspora population also will help. They have the skill, they have the technology, they have everything, even the funds.
Just waiting for the right time to come home.
Why do you think the Labour Party guy is traveling? It's to build confidence. To build confidence. By the time God helping him, he wins.
Yes.
You find that investment will come because he has built investment anywhere in the world is about confidence.
Okay, so those saying that those people in diaspora can't vote is wasting his time.
No, yeah, he's not wasting his time. It's future investment that will happen. It's future investment.
And you're not saying this because you're from the Southeast.
No, I'm not. It's not about where you come from. What is happening in Nigeria today is not about an individual. It's a movement that found his voice in this man.
And he just happened to be the beneficiary.
Yes, of what is going on.
Join us again after the break. Now, finally, on this illegal refining and discovery of pipe matter, you know, I wanted to talk about this discovery of 58 tapping points by Tom Polo, that's Govt Ekpomopolo, who has the contract to secure the pipelines. Now, my question is, so if Tom Polo didn't get this contract, are we saying that those 58 tapping points would never have been discovered?
Yeah, well, you see, Tom Polo himself, when people started shouting that he's earning 4 billion every month,
yes,
and he had to justify. He's aware that those places exist.
Which is why it was easy to...
Yes, now it's not from the creeks.
Yes.
Are they not the ones who put, you know, these things?
Yes.
So it's something that, you know, it's not a hard and fast stuff.
Yes.
You know, even though, yes, call it private security. You can engage private security, okay?
Yes.
When Navy
Is there.
is there.
Army?
Army is there. If you don't have enough personnel, you can hire private security that will, okay? Then let's assume that Tompolo is a private security. I know when Jonathan was president, the Benin Republic president also asked him how he secures his waters.
Yes.
He said, Tompolo. He said, can you ask him also to secure? Nigeria was paying for it. Yes.
I don't understand.
Yeah, Nigeria was paying for it to secure.
Benin Republic.
Yes.
And Tompolo.
Tompolo, well, yeah. You know, Tompolo. In fact, you know, so I'm even surprised that the guy is still hungry for money.
Yes.
You know, because he has, he's been favored by...
He has blown.
Yes,
as we say.
yes.
Yeah. I've been following issues with the IMF and World Bank, and you know, the IMF, both of them saying that oil prices are hurting Nigeria due to fuel subsidy, and that, you know, even though we're yet to request debt restructuring, the World Bank says it will assess our relief sustainability plan. Listen to that. Before granting relief. So I know that the Minister of Finance has said that the federal government is looking to stretch, is what she said, stretch the debt service period. Not
forgiveness.
Not forgiveness, to stretch. What are your thoughts on all this? The IMF saying this and this matter of fuel subsidy is like catch-22 situation we find ourselves.
Well, the subsidy is also one of the, let me just, for time, let me just briefly describe a scenario how this subsidy happens.
Works, yes.
Now, government wants to sell oil at 165 per liter. And they give license to someone to import. Now, the person that introduced that someone gets a cut, maybe 3 naira,
right,
maybe 5 naira. The person that introduced and the person that introduced, and there's a huge chain
of introductions.
Yes.
And on every stop,
that's right,
there's a cut.
There's a cut. Now, by the time this thing lands, the landing cost will move to 200 naira because of all this.
Everybody taking 3 naira.
Yes. But refining it could be 50 naira per liter, per, you know, per barrel or something like that.
The actual cost of the refining.
Yes. It's cheap. But what blows it up is the chain of cuts that they have to make. And then on getting to the market, is 200 naira. And government wants to sell at 165. That's one aspect of subsidy. So make sure that fuel is sold at 165 in Lagos, in Port Harcourt, in Enugu, in Calabar, in Sokoto, Kano, and all that, irrespective of. But they are not allowing the shipment to land in any other place apart from Lagos.
Is that not more expensive?
Every import of oil
comes to Lagos.
Comes to Lagos. Why must it come to Lagos? You now use tanker. That's why the roads are bad. You now use no train to move the products from Lagos to Port Harcourt to Aba and all that. And what they should have done is move the same product to these different places. Now, you find that the tanker drivers,
yes,
Nigeria government used to spend over 7 billion a week on subsidy. You want Sokoto to sell at 165.
You have to pay the shortfall.
Yes. The tanker that will move it from Lagos to this, you have to pay them.
Okay. You've run ahead of me. This is crazy. What you're explaining doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't. Those are two ways that subsidy happens.
So, but if our refineries were working,
Yeah.
all these permutations would be unnecessary.
Very much unnecessary. One, the tanker drivers will now look for a way, but they're also a strong lobby group. They may not allow the train to function.
Within all this, we still hear stories of how trailers divert.
Yes, to
Other countries,
Niger and all
yes.
that. Yes.
So we're paying this subsidy to maintain the price at 165. Then somebody still takes that fuel, outside and still profiteers.
I have witnessed it.
So it pays me to actually take my fuel there.
Yes. So they have a way of smuggling this fuel. They just come to a gas station, fill up, and move over there.
Go across the border.
Yeah, and sell in gallons and other things. And okay, that is this one that is not official.
Okay,
but
so
there are some countries that is official.
yes. Okay, so I'm confused. We can't stop the subsidy because if we stop it, the price of fuel will skyrocket.
No,
is that true?
No, you see, when you stop the subsidy, it means
Yes.
that we are making savings.
Government is trying to maintain the price at 165. So let's say the shortfall is 35. If government doesn't cover that 35, what happens?
Now, what will happen is that, yes, price of fuel will still go up, but the thing is that immediately they should license more private refineries to start operation. The price of fuel might be in 2-3 years, might go up to maybe 200 or 500 naira.
Yes.
But it's a short-term thing. But you have taken away the middlemen and the cuts. So by the time the refineries come on stream, you have two things you have to do: liberalize and deregulate. Okay? By the time you liberalize, that's anybody can
Do the business.
Yes, do the business. Then competition will come in.
And all of us will be forced to readjust.
So competition will be more competitive. And that's how the economy grows. That's how the economy grows. Economies do not grow under monopoly. Like most of the things we are doing now, government will give waiver to
One person.
One person. And waivers are expensive to the government, and it kills other businesses, competing businesses.
Because if everybody is not getting a waiver, then we're not operating equally.
Let me show you an example of my very good friend used to import steel from Poland. He did not get waiver. Dangote now got a waiver. Sorry, I'm mentioning names.
Yes.
For that steel. And the same market they buy.
So we're not equal.
They're not.
You've made me very sad today because I'm thinking now, why would anyone want to be governor or president? And I'm asking that because I know that you also contested twice, 2011 and 2015. You subsequently headed the Inland Revenue
of Ebonyi State.
For your state, Ebonyi State,
Yes.
you headed that as well.
That's right.
So I assume that some of the things that I've also seen in government, how impossible governance can be. You've also experienced it. Why would anyone listening to everything we've said today still want to be president or governor? It seems like such an impossible job.
Yeah, I wanted to be governor of my state because I saw that they were lacking behind in almost everything.
Yes.
The people that actually inspired me were the people that hawk on the street. Now, during my campaign, I found that farming was no longer lucrative for them. For a hectare of land that usually costs about 40,000, you can spend 100,000. And the yield, you may not recover from this thing.
It's not commensurate to what you spend.
Yes. So these farmers decided that since farming is no longer lucrative, let their children go to Lagos and hustle to augment. Some of them, I meet them in the traffic, Third Mainland Bridge. They say, Oga, they go Falomo side. I say, yes, I enter. They receive calls early in the morning from their mother, same money we have not eaten. They say, he has not sold.
The mama, when I sell finish.
Yes, when I sell finish, I'll send. They kept calling them.
But why is it that people like you don't win elections?
Democracy has a way of not throwing the right people. Sometimes. That's what democracy does.
Is it manipulation within the political parties? Because
Yes.
one of the things that I say is that the best people within the political parties never emerge.
They don't have the wherewithal. They don't have the resources, the financial resources to compete. Look at what happened at the primaries. So these are the challenges. These are the challenges. So when I went in there, I did all I could. But first of all, the political parties that usually win elections, shuffled me out and
Yes.
and couldn't get even
You were in SDP.
Yes, and I was in the queuing system. PDP is queuing system.
Right.
APC is queuing system.
So you be going up.
And I didn't have that kind of time.
Yes.
Because one, if I begin to queue, I might be 100 years old before it gets to my turn. So I hopped into.
But as the head of the revenue board there, you must have then experienced what governance is like. Because some of us who do this armchair criticism, when you get closer, you see how impossible government can be.
That's right. And that, after my experience, I've moderated my comments about government, because it's not an easy thing. Take, for instance, state budget. Nobody, if you depend on a civil servant, the governor, the current governor, David Umahi,
yes,
will sit down. He will actually be the one to almost do the budget.
By himself?
By himself.
Why? Because of padding?
Padding. He will make sure that, and again, World Bank incentivize them.
Yes.
If you have a good budget, follow the World Bank process.
System, prototype.
Call it SEFTAS.
Yes.
State fiscal transparency, something.
Yes.
All right. You win. You can win up to maximum is $20 million.
From the World Bank?
Yes.
If you do it right?
If you do it right, yes.
So people are trying because of that?
Yes. But the governor will sit down. All of us will sit down. Late into the night.
Is that
just to get?
And that's not normally how it should be?
No, it shouldn't be. Governor, what concerns him with the...
Writing the budget?
Yeah. Is something that the budget department will need to do. But because he wants that dollars to use it to do projects, he will sit down. We hired a consultant, helping out to do...
To make sure you tick all the boxes that the World Bank was given.
No, I give it to that governor. I give it to him.
That's David Umahi?
Yeah, David Umahi, yes. And that's why when the federal government or all this state budget padding, it's not in Ebonyi State. No, it's not. You can't find that. Who are you to pad? He will discover it.
Are you going to try again to be governor?
Well, it depends on the future. If I'm still old enough, young enough to do that, then God says yes. But I'm just, like this time around, I'm not playing. Yeah, I'm not playing. I'm just watching to know what
see how things are.
Yes. So that is just the thing. But my experience was just quite, because the private sector is a different world.
To the public.
They are not in a hurry. They don't have sense of urgency.
In the public sector?
Yeah, in the public sector. There's no sense of urgency.
I notice they don't even come to work before 10.
Yes.
Is that how it is in Ebonyi as well?
Everywhere, but the governor, you heard that the governor cannot tolerate that. He resumes work, 6:37. He starts from his house. Sometimes he takes shower 1 p.m. after dealing with the morning session. You cannot. I was always in the office 7 a.m. before most staff. And I said to them, I cannot come to work before you.
I mean,
you have to be here. And it was a huge challenge getting them to begin to think.
Like they were in the private sector.
The monies that they take for allowance for this, for allowance for that. And then few people will just pocket it. And I said, no. The money, some monies that we generate, we share with the local government.
Yes. And
then we use it to maintain. What I did was to make sure that everybody gets a transport allowance.
Yes.
Some 500, some 1,000, everybody.
Get something.
Yeah, get something.
Some people will not be happy with that
formula. Yeah, they will pocket.
Formula.
Yeah, they will pocket.
Thank you very much, Dr. Nweze, for spending an hour with me. It's been a glorious education with you.
Thank you. It's my pleasure. My pleasure.
And thank you for watching. I'm Angela Ajetunmobi.